Welcome to the Pretty Sister podcast. I'm your host, Callie Stoyer, and I'm so happy to have this time to spend with you for a moment to share in sisterhood and friendship and hopefully bring some messages, some words to you that will be inspiring and help you in your journey of life. So today we are going to uncover one of the top things that hold you back from dreaming and trying to accomplish your dreams or trying to move forward in life. We often get stuck, and we're going to tackle what this one super empowering thought is that you may or may not have or believe and that's stopping you. And also today I'm going to give you a technique, a 3-step technique that's going to help you to be able to retrain your thoughts and help you get unstuck and in a place to move forward. Soon, my book, Think Pretty, is going to be coming out in a few months. Just for this audience, we're going to go through the beliefs. It's 5 empowering beliefs to help you cultivate friendship, confidence, and joy. And step by step through this podcast, I'm going to uncover some of these beliefs and give you a little sneak peek into what they are. My hope is to help you to believe more in yourself and to really embrace this concept of living in a think pretty philosophy that will help you to move forward in life, daring to dream and then going after and accomplishing your dreams. We all do get stuck. And this is the first belief in the book, is the belief that you are pretty. That shouldn't be a huge surprise to you, as the title of the book is Think Pretty. So to really get started in building upon these beliefs, you have to first think that you're pretty. And that might sound trite, but if you really pause and think about it, self-worth and how you view yourself really matters. And a lot of people have negative self-talk and just don't think highly of ourselves. In fact, we are often our worst critic. I love this quote by Coco Chanel. She says, "Beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself." You're beautiful just the way you are. And the moment you decide to see yourself that way, that's where the beauty begins. Okay? It's with your belief. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. It's a personal story of mine that will help you get into this mindset, or at least understand where I had a pivotal time in my life where I made a shift of thinking a little bit differently about myself, less critical and more in line with who I am. I remember as a child standing in front of the mirror. It was a summer day. We lived where there was a community swimming pool down the road. I mean, it was just literally a block away, so we could walk down to this swimming club. But I was also younger, and I had to be accompanied by older siblings. In order to be able to enter the pool by yourself, you had to have a patch that signified that you passed the swim test, which was swimming in the deep end of the ocean, of the swimming pool. I can't remember all it required, but probably doing some laps back and forth and treading water for a certain amount of time. And so I was working on that, getting excited to take that swim test. But I remember standing in front of the mirror, looking at myself and being critical and noticing my flaws and feeling, as most, girls go through this, just feeling like I was chubby and wishing I looked different. I had a best friend at the time who had long blonde hair, was really thin, just beautiful little girl. I was comparing myself to her and feeling like I had ugly short brown hair, and, I could see my imperfections and my flaws. And I was sad about it. And then I remember a very unique thing happened for me that I'm so grateful for now, is I had this thought pop into my head, which was, well, wait a minute. God created you just like this. Like, God made me to be me with all of these attributes. He didn't make me to be like Diana. He made me to be like Callie. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, so if this is how he designed me, it would be ungrateful for me to criticize, or at least who am I to want to question God's design? And that was an interesting thing, kind of, now that I look back at it, kind of a poignant thought for a little girl. But I thought about that and I thought, I don't want to criticize God, and I certainly don't know more than him. And if he made me this specific way, there must be a reason for it. There must be a purpose for it. And it began at that young age, a fascination that I had of thinking about my potential. Like, well, okay, who am I going to become? What's great about me? What inside of me makes me me? And what kind of things can I do with this person that I am? And that is a touchstone moment that I have gone back to many times in my life as I've grown up. And I don't think I know I didn't fully appreciate it at that moment. But you know how you just have these core childhood memories that stick with you? And I'm so grateful for that one, because as I've matured and gotten older and been a mother and watched my girls go through similar thoughts, my mind returns to that. And I've gone back to that again and again, remembering that I didn't want to question God and I wanted to discover what was great about me. And that right there anchored me into truly feeling worthy and truly embracing this nickname that I was so beautifully given by my older sisters of pretty. And this journey of discovering what that was and what that meant for me. All of us have that opportunity to see ourselves and appreciate ourselves exactly as we are, and to figure out how we're going to magnify and use our gifts and talents for good and to, I believe, to bless others. And thank goodness that we can learn and grow. Think about you as a little child, or think about if you do have children. When we're young and we start to walk, or that little child begins to walk, there's going to be stumbling and falling. As they fall down, we don't criticize. We just, laugh it off and say, okay, we help them up. And we think it's cute. We think it's adorable as that learning and growth happens. But we don't often do that as much with ourselves. We don't give ourselves the same grace as we learn, and we stumble as we learn new things. But that is one way that we need to consider looking at ourselves with much more grace and understanding, knowing that, we're going to fall. In fact, we're going to fail, and we're going to try things, and we have to learn how to do things. And it begins piece by piece, learning, failing, trying, this cycle of doing it. And as we do that, that is how we become better. That's how we grow. That's how we learn how to do things. And so that difference between where we are and where we want to go is natural. It's normal. It's not our worth, because we start at a place of just being worthy, made exactly as we are. I have a daughter, 3 daughters, but one in particular, Sophie, has this ability to just really embrace and love herself. She discovered at a young age that she had freckles and didn't question them. Why do I have freckles and you don't? Or she was comparing her freckles to others. And over time, as she got older, at some point, I think another person might have commented about her freckles because she came home deciding she didn't like them, that they didn't make her pretty, and she wanted to get rid of them. And we had a lot of discussion about that, and me ending up telling her that these freckles actually are angels' kisses. That's what they are, and they make you beautiful just the way you are. And she thought on that and mulled that over, and over time, as she grew up, I watched her decide to embrace those freckles as part of something that just made her absolutely beautiful. Later in life, I found my girls, Sophie and Bella, her younger sister, after a day of sun tanning, doing an after sun freckle check in front of the mirror. For a while, I was trying to understand, what are they doing? And then I learned from listening to their conversation that they were examining and searching for freckles, and that it was the more freckles you had, the better. And I just smiled, thinking, I love that she has embraced who she is, that she's made it beautiful so much that even her little sister is looking for freckles and wanting to have more of them because they've discovered that that is just a beautiful trait. With all of the traits that we have in our life, we can either criticize them, we can feel bad about ourselves, or we can learn to love them, and we can learn to cultivate whatever raw talents we've been given. God created you as you are, because he knew that the world needed exactly you. There's no one just like you. And so you've got to show up in this life as you. Now, what do we do, though, when it's hard to have that self-love, that confidence, when we're feeling that we are falling short. This is going to help you to take control of your thoughts and to recognize them, because this is all about thinking pretty. So this is a process of retraining your thoughts to be more in line with where you're headed, where you want to go, to remembering and anchoring in on that self-worth that is so critical for you to realize how pretty you are, how worthy you are. We can do this with this 3-part technique. This is what I call the think, feel, do technique. If you have an emotion, and it often begins with an emotion that is causing you anxiety, sadness, fear, you have some choices, right? We can let them control us. We can allow those emotions to rule the day, or we could create some awareness around them and try to be almost like an inspector and to like Inspector Clouseau and understand them. And that's what I want to invite you to do with this process, is not to shove the emotions down, not to ignore them, but to let them just come right up, be your friends, and let them be your guides. To start thinking of your emotions as tools for you, that they're another form of information that we need, critical information that's going to help you. So we want to love our emotions and really embrace them. But we do this not by staying stuck in them, but by understanding them and using this technique to help us to change our thinking. So what we first do is, when you feel that emotion, you're going to ask yourself, well, you're recognizing it, and then you're going to ask yourself, number one, what am I thinking? Because every emotion first starts with a thought. The pattern is we think something, and those thoughts are going to cause us to feel a certain way with our emotions. And then those emotions are going to cause us to act a certain way. Sometimes you're going to catch this with an action, like you might find yourself yelling at your kids or having an argument or driving really fast. That's the action. And if your awareness comes then, great. Again, that action is, we can trace it back to a feeling that can be traced back to a thought. So if you want to practice first doing this with pen and paper, you would start asking yourself, when you catch your situation and something that you feel terrible, or you've done something that isn't the way you want to show up or act in life, come back to, okay, what was I thinking? You might have been thinking in your head, oh, I'm an idiot. I can't do anything right. Or you might be thinking that nobody likes me, or that I'm not included, or that I am so stupid. Whatever it is, there's a thought behind it. And we can't change the thought until we understand what the thought is. But I want you to follow that thought all the way through. Write all those thoughts down. And then ask yourself, go on to the second question. Question number 2, how does that make me feel? When you're thinking that thought, what emotions are you stirring up because of that thought? What's that bringing up for you? And write all of those emotions down. And then the third part is, okay, when I'm feeling that way, what is it that I do? Well, that's, when I yell, or that's when I get snippy, or that's when I retreat to my room and I want to be quiet, or that's when I just take a nap because I can't handle life. What is it that happens when you feel that way? Now, this is a lot of useful, wonderful information when you can sit down and see, oh, these were the thoughts that caused this emotion that led me to these actions. And when you understand all of that, now we have a choice. We can allow ourselves to be ruled more by our fear-based thinking, which is typically what happens when we're having negative thought patterns, or we can decide that we want to be more faith-based. We want to lead more from our heart. And this is where we're going to run through this exercise again, flipping it. And that's exactly what you do, is you almost are just going to choose the opposite thought. So you come back to the thoughts that you were thinking before, and you are going to run through this again. And you're going to come back and say, okay, now if I'm thinking from my heart, if I'm giving myself more grace, if I'm choosing to see myself as worthy and enough, which is where we started this discussion, if I'm coming from that thought process, that place of thinking, you're going to think a little bit differently about yourself. And then when you're thinking that way, now ask yourself, how does that make me feel? well, that makes me feel more at peace. That makes me feel good. That, whatever it is that brings up to you. And if you're finding yourself having a hard time making the transition of flipping it, you probably haven't gotten enough of the negative thinking out, because that's what we're doing. We're purging those negative thoughts because they really don't have any place in us. If we come back to this premise that you are worthy, you're enough, you're perfect just the way you are. Come back to thinking of yourself as a little child that stumbles when they're learning to walk, but they're going to get it. They're going to try again, and they're eventually going to learn. Whatever it is that you possibly are having an issue with, you can figure this out, and you are worthy to do so. If you're still thinking negatively, you've just got to work on those negative thoughts till you get them out, and you're ready to come into your heart where you can change that thinking. And those positive thoughts are going to lead to some positive emotions that are going to feel more in line with who you are, that are going to feel more faith-based, more courageous, more in line with your purpose. They're going to feel more forward moving, more from a place of love. When you're feeling that way, when you're feeling that loving, positive way, then you do want to pick up the phone and invite your girlfriends out for dinner, or you do want to try to post that post that you've been fearful about, or you do want to get up and go perform at work, or whatever it is that's been holding you back. When you can learn how to help yourself get out of those patterns of negative thinking, embrace who you are, truly embrace your worth with this think, feel, do pattern, it's going to be a game changer for you. It's going to help you to live your best life. Our brain is so powerful in what we can think about ourselves, but we have to practice learning how to retrain it, because we all have negative, sabotaging patterns of belief from our childhood, from our experiences that have gotten in there, and they are not necessarily true. I remember standing in front of that mirror when it was just a piercing thought of absolute truth, that God created me just the way I was, and that I could love that I could embrace that I could count on that I could trust that God knew what he was doing far better than I did. And so therefore, it was my job to discover why God created me just like that and what his purpose was for me. And I think that in between that childhood vision, or that thought that I had, and now, it's just a process of learning how to come to know that and discover that through our own thoughts. Be patient with yourself as you practice this process of retraining your brain. Your thoughts are powerful, and the way you think about every situation that you face is up to you. It should be an empowering thought. It can also be a scary thought, but since it is up to you, you get to pick it. We literally are made up of the sum of our thoughts. And the more you can practice using your emotions as a clue, using your actions as a clue, all things that will tell you how you're thinking, and then take ultimate responsibility for that, because your actions, although you might think it's a response to what somebody else did to you or a situation that you're in, and clearly part of that's true, but the way that you will learn to react to situations or to people can be completely up to you as you learn to think your best thoughts and to think in ways that are aligned with who you want to be, who you want to show up as, how you want to respond. So if you find that you're not responding in ways that you know are your best self, maybe you're throwing fits, or maybe you're crashing emotionally, or maybe you're being fearful and you're not showing up, doing the things that you want to accomplish. Maybe you've not gone on that trip that you've been wanting to go on for years. Maybe you've not gotten that promotion. I mean, we could go on with the disappointments that we all face on a regular basis. And maybe you've been blaming others for that, or blaming your situation, or blaming a myriad of things that we often can blame for that. But I want you to realize that if you pull all of that back, all the things that you've been wanting to blame or put off into the future or use as excuses, peel it all back, and for just a moment, embrace this thought that you're worthy. You're worthy of all of those dreams that you've been wanting to accomplish, and that you're enough, and that you can have and do what it is that you want and desire most. Can you have it immediately? No. Does it take work? Yes. Will it take some retraining of the way you're thinking? Absolutely. But you can, and that should give you hope. And so learn to practice this think, feel, do technique and pattern. Practice it for a little while until we come to the next part of the lesson. And I promise you, this is going to help you to be able to love yourself more, have more grace for yourself, and be able to move forward in life and showing up in the ways that only you can show up, because there's only you, this one beautiful person that is you on this earth that can show up and be and do and accomplish the things that you're designed and meant to do. And you don't want to miss out on that. I promise you, you don't. So I'm going to leave you with this one parting thought, and that is that you are enough just as you are. You are capable of greatness. You possess the strength to overcome any challenge. You are deserving of love, joy, and all the beautiful things life offers. You are enough. Believe it, embrace it, and live it. And that is my message for you today, pretty sisters. I'm so glad that you're here, that you found this community of sisterhood, friendship, where we're cultivating confidence, where we're finding joy in our lives, among our friends, and celebrating each other in the process. And until we talk again next week, stay pretty, and I'll see you then.